The moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment the air in the room changes. Everything shifts. It is the day you stop living like a guest inside your own story and start standing like the strongest presence in any space you enter. That kind of power does not come from being loud. It does not come from having a cold heart. It is not about beating people in arguments or making anyone feel small. Real power begins the second you stop giving your energy away to people who never learned how to value it. For too long, you have been losing your strength through endless words, through long replies, through careful speeches made to defend your heart, your motives, your choices, and your right to feel what you feel. You have been handing your peace to anyone who questioned you. That ends here. Think about how many years you spent cutting yourself into smaller pieces so other people would not feel uneasy around your depth. Think about how often you turned your soul into tiny, easy sentences just so other people would not have to work to understand you. And still, they did not listen. Most were never listening. They were only waiting for their turn to speak, their turn to judge, their turn to tell you why your pain was wrong. Stay with me here because this part matters. When you stop explaining, you are not just becoming quiet. You are taking back the huge amount of life force it takes to manage other people's opinions of you. Many sensitive people are told their gift is feeling more, but that is not the next level. You already feel deeply. You already notice what others miss. Your next level comes when you stop turning that gift into a performance. Silence for a person who feels everything is not weakness. It is a clean boundary. It is a form of self-respect. Your sensitivity was never something shameful. It was never a flaw that needed an apology. It was insight. It was instinct. It was power. But even power becomes useless when you keep using it to ask for permission to exist. If you have ever stayed awake in the middle of the night, replaying one small conversation again and again, then you know exactly what this feels like. You went over every word because you believed there had to be some better sentence, some gentler tone, some perfect way to make another person finally understand your heart. You thought if you just explained it one more time, they would see you clearly. You thought the right words would open the door to their empathy. So you kept trying. You defended your kindness like it was on trial. You defended your hurt like it was a mistake. You defended your boundaries as if they were cruel. But hear this clearly. If someone needs 10 pages of explanation just to recognize your value, they are not searching for truth. They are searching for a reason to keep you in a weak position. They want you explaining because as long as you are explaining, you are not standing tall. There is a special kind of exhaustion that comes from this. Not normal tiredness. Not the tiredness of work or a busy week. This is deeper. It is the heavy ache that comes from trying to prove yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. You explain your silence when you are overwhelmed. You explain your tears when you are hurt. You explain your distance when your nervous system needs rest. You explain and explain and explain until you begin to forget that your feelings are already valid before anyone agrees with them. That is the real damage. Every time you over-explain to someone who does not respect your view, you quietly teach yourself that your reality only counts if they approve it. You become a lawyer for your own soul, speaking to a courtroom that was never fair to begin with. And this is the hard truth most people avoid. Some people do not want clarity. They do not want peace. They do not want understanding. They want control. They want you tired. They want you reacting. They want you stuck in defense because a person who is always defending themselves has less energy left to protect themselves. Your habit of over-explaining is not just personality. It is not some cute communication style. For many people, it is a stress response. It is the body trying to survive. If you grew up in places where your feelings were treated like a burden, where your sadness was judged, where your joy was mocked, where your needs had to be justified before they were allowed, then your mind learned a painful lesson very early. It learned that your inner world was not enough on its own. It learned that you needed approval before you could relax. So now as an adult, when someone misunderstands you, your system can go into alarm. You are not just trying to share information. You are trying to create safety. You are trying to calm an old fear that says, if they do not understand me, I may not be safe. Listen closely because this can change the way you see yourself. Research has shown that a part of the population is born with a more reactive nervous system, more tuned in, more alert, more emotionally aware. These people often notice tension before anyone speaks. They feel the mood in the room before the facts are clear. They catch the small changes in someone's face, voice, and energy. While other people enter a room and see a group, they enter and feel the atmosphere. They sense the discomfort behind the smile. They notice the insecurity hidden under the joke. They absorb more data than most. But if no one teaches them how to filter that data, they can begin to believe they must explain every feeling to make life manageable. And here is the part many people never say out loud. In human relationships, the person who keeps defending themselves is often seen as the one with less power. Every long explanation can accidentally tell the other person that you need their approval to feel stable. Every speech can make it seem like your truth needs permission. But the person who can stand in what they know without putting on a whole case for it sends a different message. Calm, grounded, certain. That is authority, not force, not noise, authority. Real emotional intelligence is not what many people think it is. It is not saying every feeling out loud. It is not giving a detailed report on every wound, every thought, every reaction. That kind of constant exposure can burn you out. True emotional intelligence is inner regulation. It is the ability to feel something deeply without letting that feeling force you into self-betrayal. It is the ability to say, yes, this hurt me, yes, this matters, yes, this is real, and still understand that I do not need a committee to approve what I felt. You become the first and final witness to your own experience. You become the place your truth lands. And once that happens, everything changes. Your feelings stop being arguments and start becoming information. Your pain stops being a debate and starts becoming a signal. Your boundaries stop looking like attacks and start looking like wisdom. This does not mean you shut down. It does not mean you stop sharing with people who have earned your trust. It means you stop throwing pearls into spaces that only know how to step on them. It means you stop offering your deepest self to those who only know how to make you defend it. And yes, when you first make this change, it can feel strange. It can even feel sad. No one talks enough about that part. When a lifelong habit begins to break, it does not always feel empowering at first. Sometimes it feels like grief. Sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes it feels like standing inside a silence that used to be filled with effort, because maybe for years your explaining was the bridge you built to keep people close. Maybe it was the thing you used to keep peace, to reduce conflict, to stay connected. When you stop doing that, you may suddenly see how many relationships were feeding on your emotional labor. You may realize some people loved access, not intimacy. They loved the version of you that kept translating your heart for them over and over while they gave very little back. That hurts, but it also frees you. Because now you can finally see the bridge was only being built from your side. Think about the people who carry the deepest respect without seeming to chase it. They do not write 5 long messages to justify one simple choice. They do not stay up late building the perfect response to every small insult. They do not keep begging to be seen correctly. Why? Because somewhere along the way, they learned the strength of quiet certainty. Not cold silence, not pride, not emotional distance, a grounded silence. A silence that says, I know what is true even if you refuse to see it. That kind of silence is powerful because it does not need to perform. It does not ask for votes. It does not need applause. It just stands. And when you start living this way, you stop building walls and start building gates. That difference is huge. A wall is fear. A wall says no one gets in because I expect harm. A gate is wisdom. A gate says access is possible but not automatic. I choose who enters. I choose who gets the deeper story. I choose who earns the long explanation and who receives only a simple no. That shift alone can calm your whole nervous system. Because the truth is, so much of your anxiety has come from trying to manage the reactions of people who already chose not to understand you. You have been acting like a fire hose in every conflict, pouring out word after word after word, hoping the force of your honesty would solve the problem. But all it did was drain you. You were using a flood where only a boundary was needed. You were pouring your whole reservoir on people who did not know how to receive even a cup. The wiser version of you is different. The wiser version becomes the reservoir itself. Deep, still, contained, full of life, but not leaking everywhere. A reservoir does not chase anyone. It does not explain its depth to every passerby. It simply holds power, and that is what your silence can become. Not emptiness, presence. Now picture the person who triggers you most. Almost everyone has someone like this. The one who always twists your meaning. The one who takes your need for space and calls it punishment. The one who hears your honesty and labels it drama. The one who can turn your softest truth into proof against you. In the past, this was the moment your panic would rise. You would feel that strong need to correct the story. You would open your phone. You would start drafting. You would explain your reasons, your tone, your history, your intention, your care. You would remind them of your loyalty, your kindness, your patience, your efforts, your love. You would try to make an honest picture out of the version they had twisted. But the stronger version of you does something different. The stronger version still feels the sting. Do not miss that. Growth does not mean numbness. It still hurts when you are misread. It still hurts when someone throws a false story on your name. You still feel it in your chest because you are human. But now, instead of letting that feeling push you into performance, you pause. You name it. You tell yourself the truth. I feel hurt because I am being misrepresented. That makes sense. And then you stop. No emergency speech. No long defense. No endless correction. You realize their misunderstanding may not be confusion at all. It may be strategy. If they truly wanted to know your heart, they would ask a real question. If they only throw blame, then your explanation becomes fuel. So you keep your energy. You take the emotion somewhere safe. You write it in a journal that does not argue back. You speak it to a trusted friend who has enough maturity to hold what you say with care. You let the feeling move through your body instead of attaching a courtroom speech to it. That is strength. That is self-respect. And the message becomes clear even if you never say it aloud. Your opinion of me is not my job to manage. Some people would rather win a conflict than build a healthy bond. Once you accept that, you stop begging for fairness from those who profit from your confusion. Your emotional energy is not endless. Treat it like something rare, because it is. Every hour you spend trying to explain your boundaries to someone who has no interest in honoring them is an hour stolen from your own life. It is time taken from your health, your goals, your creativity, your peace, your future. Think about how much has already been delayed because you were trapped in emotional loops with people who did not deserve that level of access to you. Think about the dreams left sitting on the shelf while you were busy recovering from one argument that lasted 3 days too long. Think about the workouts missed, the rest skipped, the books unwritten, the ideas ignored, the business plans delayed, the mornings ruined because your mind was still stuck in yesterday's defense. This is bigger than communication. This is life force. When you stop pouring your energy into cracked containers, you finally discover how much power you actually have. Suddenly you have energy to build, energy to focus, energy to heal, energy to create a life that feels like yours again. And this is where the real shift happens. You stop being the manager of other people's opinions and start becoming the architect of your own future. You stop waking up to see who is upset with you and start waking up to ask what you want to build. You stop using your mind to rehearse explanations and start using it to imagine possibilities. That is not selfish. That is responsible. Your attention is a resource. Your peace is a resource. Your body is a resource. If you keep handing all of that to people who are emotionally unavailable, critical, or committed to misunderstanding you, you will stay depleted. But when you begin protecting your energy with the same seriousness you protect money, time, and health, you realize something beautiful. Silence gives you hours back. Boundaries give you strength back. Self-trust gives you your future back. And once you taste that, once you feel what it is like to go a whole day without defending your right to exist, it becomes very hard to go back to the old way. Choosing silence does not mean you no longer care. It means you have finally learned the difference between closeness and self-abandonment. This distinction can save your life. Real closeness is mutual. It is earned. It is built with trust, consistency, empathy, and respect. It is when you share your inner world with people who know how to receive it gently. Self-abandonment is the opposite. It is when you keep spilling your heart out to those who have already shown you they will mishandle it. It is when you leave your own side just to beg someone else to stand with you. And many sensitive people have been doing exactly that for years without realizing it. They call it love. They call it communication. They call it trying. But often it is just a painful form of leaving themselves behind. The turning point comes when you decide to stay with yourself instead. The world truly does need your depth. It needs your empathy. It needs your ability to feel what others ignore and see what others hide. We live in a time where real care is rare and emotional honesty is needed. But the world cannot receive the best of you if you are always drained. You cannot keep giving light to the places that matter if you are using all your fuel to convince one stubborn person that your light is real. Imagine yourself as a deep well. If everyone can come waste the water, the well will run dry. Then when someone truly thirsty arrives, including you, there is nothing left to give. So putting a fence around the well is not cruelty. It is wisdom. It is stewardship. It is care. You are not becoming selfish. You are becoming selective. You are learning that not everyone deserves the full language of your soul. Some people have earned your honesty. Others have only earned distance. And peace begins when you stop confusing access with love. For most of your life, your sensitivity may have been pointed outward like a signal searching for proof that everything was okay. You watched faces. You studied tone. You reread messages. You scanned the room for danger, for tension, for rejection, for signs that you needed to fix something fast. There was always that buzzing question in the background. Do they like me? Did I say it right? Do they understand that I meant well? Am I still safe here? But when you stop over-explaining, something amazing starts to happen. That signal turns inward. The noise gets quieter. The room inside you gets still enough for a different voice to rise. Not a loud voice, not a dramatic one, a steady one, a calm one. Your own. And this voice does not ask for permission. It does not beg to be believed. It simply knows. It tells you that you are enough without a speech. It tells you that your heart is not a courtroom where every feeling needs evidence and witnesses. Your heart is a home, a living place, a sacred place, and you belong in it without defending your presence. When that truth settles in, you begin to live differently. You start hearing your intuition again. You start noticing what you want, not just what other people might approve of. You start choosing peace over performance. And slowly, almost quietly, you become easier to love because you are no longer fighting yourself. You stop trying to force people to see your goodness and start living from it. You stop asking for reassurance from every passing opinion and begin trusting the one relationship that shapes your entire life, the one you have with yourself. If you are still listening, this may be the line you needed most. You do not owe the world a detailed manual on how to treat you. You teach people how to treat you by what you accept, what you refuse, and what you stop chasing. So when that old urge rises again, and it will, when you feel your chest tighten and your fingers want to type one more paragraph to explain what you meant, stop for a second. Breathe. Feel the threshold you are standing on. On one side is the old pattern. More words, more effort, more self-betrayal wrapped in the language of clarity. On the other side is your power. Quiet, clean, centered. The powerful version of you is not hiding in a perfect speech. It is waiting in the pause before you send it. It is waiting in the moment you choose not to chase understanding from someone who has already shown you they prefer distortion. It is waiting in the small but life-changing act of staying with yourself. You may lose some people when you change like this. That is real. Some people only knew how to connect with the version of you that was always translating, softening, proving, and performing. They may feel your silence as distance because they benefited from your overgiving. Let them feel what they feel. Not every reaction deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Not every accusation deserves your life force. Some things deserve your absence. Some doors deserve to close quietly. Some chapters do not need one last speech. They just need an ending. And the peace on the other side of that is hard to describe until you feel it for yourself. The peace of not having to prove you belong in rooms you were always too alive for. The peace of not rehearsing your innocence. The peace of not carrying conversations home in your body. The peace of walking away still whole. This is not about becoming colder. It is about becoming clearer. It is about finally understanding that your worth loses nothing when someone fails to recognize it. So stop explaining. Start living. Save your breath for your dreams. Save your depth for the ones who can hold it. Save your softness for spaces where it is safe. And when the time comes, walk through that quiet door into your next life, close it gently behind you, and enjoy the rare kind of peace that comes when you no longer spend a single extra minute proving that you deserve to be here.